today we are doing something that is very exciting. For both of us, but more for one of us. Because we're just, it's exciting. But that new method of series, that's the word I was looking for. That new series we asked you all to name? Mm-hmm. Well, we got several responses that were very creative, very fun. Mm-hmm. And if anyone who is brand new and listening, we started a new series where we're going to mash up elements of characters that we really like in media, and we're going to turn them into D&D players, but not turn them into carbon copies of the character we like. And we have decided to call it Character Alchemy. Why are we calling it Character Alchemy? Why?
Because we're taking characters in alchemy, like transmuting them into traits for D&D.
Ta-da!
Tagline is transmutate them traits.
Thanks, Sam.
So character alchemy, where we transmutate them traits.
Yeah.
And this fine day in the alchemist's lab, we are looking at the one, the only, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Miss Buffy Summers.
It's my favorite show since I was like 13 years old. This is coming really full circle for freshmen in high school, Caitie.
She's like, I finally have a platform that is not just showing this show to my friends.
The internet now has to do it with me, which I think is funny because I've seen a resurgence on YouTube of reactors watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time. And I enjoy their content. Mostly. Yeah,
you've shown TJ and I a few of them, and there are a few that are very insightful and very interesting to watch, and I feel like it has further enhanced my appreciation of Buffy and of the themes.
Once I watched it all the way through in high school, and then I watched Angel after that because I was sad. And
what do I do?
But I didn't rewatch it. I had never fully season 1 to season 7 watched it a second time because I got so invested in the show that now I was entranced in now what rather than revisiting the story that I already knew.
Because you're I've been there, done that.
I am Buffy. Buffy is me, and we've done that already. So moving forward, I read a lot of I read the aftermath called Queen of the Slayers novel, and then they started coming out with 7-8 comics, and I really dove into that pretty much head first. But I have tried to watch it with other people a couple different times. One time I tried to, I don't know that I watched it with, but I gave a friend in high school a hey, you should watch this. And she sort of watched it also. And get this, my first trying to watch it with somebody who's never seen it. Can you guess who I watched it with? I bet you can't.
You bet I can't?
Yeah.
Is he? No, I can't.
Karen Spiro, my grandmother. Because I would go to her, I would spend summer at her house. So mom would go to work, I would go to grandma's house, and I would bring my Buffy box set, and I would just all right, grandma, season 1, let's go. And she enjoyed it fine, but she's a little too jump scare heavy for Karen Spiro, and eventually Buffy gets a little bit romantic with Angel and all of those things.
Karen won't have that.
It wasn't so much that, it was more the holistic embarrassment of watching
oh my god, I
romantic scenes with your grandmother.
I like this show, and my grandmother is sitting right next to me as they make out.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I don't think we ever got past season 1, TBH. So my first successful complete watch through a second time has been with you and TJ. We're on season 5 right now. So
I put up a 2 because 2 years ago it was Halloween, and we started watching it with Caitie. And ever since then, at least once a week, not every single week, but pretty much we watch Buffy.
And we watched
like
a couple,
2 or 3.
Yeah, a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm. We swap when Angel started. We kind of like we swap into the Angel episodes that are important to the Buffy storyline and kind of mix and mash all up in there. And it's been very, very fun to watch it with you. It's my favorite to watch Caitie watching the TV fully aware of what is going on and like hearing TJ and I's like, well, that's stupid, and Katie's like, it gets worse. And like all of your like commentary is very like I love it.
I tend to do a thing where if there's a major plot point or like something that on a first watch through you might not fully catch, I'll be like, that's weird. Like when it happens, I'm like, wow, that's weird, isn't it? That's kind of odd.
Yeah, but now we're trained. So when she says it, we're like, shut up, Caitie.
Actually, I'm just making sure that you saw what you were supposed to see, that you didn't pass that moment.
You have to experience the media the right way.
I just need you to see it so that when it comes back later,
that you will know.
That you were like, oh, right, and you connect the dots the way that it's intended you connect the dots. So, in case you haven't seen Buffy, first of all, fix that. Second of all, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it started in 97.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Season 1 was in 1997. And
2097.
Yeah, I don't know how that could have been any different, but
1897.
Starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, Allison Hannigan, Nicholas Brendan, Anthony Stewart Head. They're all very good and great. They lasted for 7 seasons. I forget exactly when the last season aired, but it was like, the 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
And after season 3, there is a spin-off series called Angel that lasted for 5 seasons. Which is kind of impressive, honestly. I feel like these days spin-off seasons... very popular.
I feel like spin-off series these days do not last that long.
There is a part of me, so in our watch through, we've been watching mostly Buffy. And there are watch orders out there that tell you like how you should orient Buffy episodes to Angel episodes once it spins off, so that because they cross over, that you understand like the crossover plot.
Right.
And they highlight those like very important episodes in red. There's a part of me that I think we might be doing ourselves a disservice by not actually watching Angel.
Sure. Because
it has a pretty good plot line that like ties interestingly into the Buffyverse. But I think similarly to Buffy, Angel has like a couple of seasons where it's kind of slow and like it's a different vibe. Like they weren't trying to recreate Buffy with the Angel spinoff. Like it's more...
It's giving Batman.
It's a little bit more procedural. It's a little bit more, like fighting crime.
It's verging on the edge of like cop crime scene drama. Like it's verging. It's never fully like goes over there, but there are like echoes of it present.
And I would say that by the end of season 2, start of season 3 of Angel, which would be like around season 5, end of season 5, beginning of season 6 of Buffy, that Angel starts to kind of let go of that a little bit. And it just like it finds its own footing in its own story.
Isn't that like a trait or a phenomenon like in TV, like series media, where like you have to get through that first and second season to find your rhythm?
Yeah. And Angel is a character in Buffy. Angel has his own series.
I'm sure TJ will throw a picture up of David Boreanaz.
Angel. And Angel. He brings over with him to his spinoff a couple of characters from
Buffy characters.
Buffy. So you have some tie in there. And in my rewatch, I tried to start to rewatch Angel just to like if I'm watching reactors, I watch ahead of where we are to remind myself what happens in the story kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I was trying to rewatch Angel ahead of potentially watching it with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much found myself being like, I'm interested in Buffy Summers, the character,
Mm-hmm.
and this show doesn't have that.
So it's
And
like
so
less
this isn't
pull for me.
interesting as
Yeah.
much for me. And I think that still kind of rings true in the later seasons for me, but
Sure.
the story of Angel becomes a little bit more compelling.
Sure.
So then it's less...
Then the story kind of like, you're like, okay, I'll stick around.
Right, exactly. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one girl in all the world chosen to fight the evils of the world. She alone can fight the demons, vampires, and the forces of darkness. And she...
To put it short, since we, like, yes, she is called her Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but for even more, like, in-your-face context, she kills vampires and monsters, but mostly vampires are her main target, and it's to help save the world, period.
And there's just one. Which, like, in some, like, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer is such an iconic show that there have been many a collegiate course
this is true.
dissecting and understanding and pulling meaning from Buffy. And one of the things that I've heard as not necessarily a critique, but just like that's interesting. One girl in all of the world, and Buffy is pulled right now in Sunnydale, which is a fictional Californian city.
I thought it was real.
Did you really?
No.
Okay. I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. It's a small Californian town. Doesn't mean you would have heard of it. Anyway, so fictional city of Sunnydale. And she's there because there's a Hellmouth there.
Yes.
It is the Hellmouth.
Just the nastiest word ever.
Yeah, it's a high...
Hellmouth.
It's a high quantity area that a lot of demons are drawn to.
It's like it's basically like Mecca, or like their magnet. It is where they align
for whatever the reason. And you start to learn more about the lore of like all of that. She is kept a secret. So like the world at large does not know that demons, vampires, and the forces of darkness are constantly preying on
plaguing the world. And that's something, okay, we could probably we could probably adjust and talk about what we like about Buffy, but maybe. One thing I want to say while watching this show is there's not, in my mind, it's not like a loophole. It's more like I'm confused and interested about this. There have to be other Hellmouths in the world.
There are. There's one in Cleveland.
Okay, so there have to be other Hellmouths. There's no way. It's like the Santa effect, right? It's like one girl, whole world. There are other Hellmouths. So like what's happening at those Hellmouths? Like how vast is the death there, since we don't see Buffy leave California? In
theory, the way the lore works is that she's just maintaining a balance. So like she knocks out enough and that it helps the balance stay in alignment. Like people die in Cleveland for sure.
And I'm so it's like this will never be gone forever. You are literally just balancing the force. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. That was something that is not like top of mind constantly when we're watching it, but now that we've like opened the can a little bit, I'm like, one moment.
And you end up hearing a lot about the lore of like how one becomes a slayer and the line of slayers, and
it's a very long lineage.
Yeah, the important thing that I did not mention is that to each slayer is a watcher. And the Watcher is a part of a Watchers Council based out of England, and it's a stuffy white dude in a three-piece suit made of tweed, and he
often sounds like this when he talks. He's it's delightful.
And they're all dudes. Well, that's not true. Some of them are female, but more of them are dudes. Which okay. And
it was. I don't want to say it was the 90s, but like. I think it's definitely a product.
It's also like kind of the point, because
got it.
This young girl is being told what to do.
Couldn't be told what to do by like a mentor woman. That doesn't work.
And like it gives this very clear contrast for when, spoilers, like you should already know because we're dissecting a character, but Buffy like defies the Watchers Council.
Yes.
And so it gives more weight to like she's standing up to the kind of patriarchy
because it is a boys club.
Right, exactly. But this person is supposed to be well studied in the dark forces. So they guide the Slayer in making sure she's trained and knows how to handle herself in combat, but also, you know, if something weird is going on, they crack open their ancient tomes to like try to figure out what
high school library. Disguised as a high school library.
So in Buffy season 1, she is 15 years old. She's just been kicked out of her school in LA, which is, if you're familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie that was bad and did poorly. This is coming from that. So in that movie, she sets fire to the school gym to eliminate the vampires that were within it. But because the world at large does not understand who she is and what she's doing, she gets kicked out of school. Right. And so she gets sent, and her watcher dies. She gets sent to Sunnydale because that's the Hellmouth.
I find that interesting that, like, at least I don't remember in those first seasons talking about, like, her experience with that watcher very much.
Yeah.
I would need to rewatch to see if she says anything about it. I have
straight up never watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie because it's so bad. Like, in the Buffy fandom, it's just not worth...
We don't talk about
It's not worth anything. But presumably she had a watcher in LA.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I'm making a note to at least look up information about her LA watcher.
Yeah, I say that, and now I'm second guessing my own knowledge a little bit.
That's okay. I mean, we're talking about it now, so then our brain obviously drops important information that we know.
Right. So she is 15 when she finds out she's a Slayer.
Right.
She burns her school. She gets sent to Sunnydale. Her new watcher shows up under the guise of the high school librarian. So he's gotten a job at Sunnydale High School so that he can keep tabs easily on Buffy without, you know, making unnecessarily like waves. Mm-hmm. And then we meet her friends, Willow, Xander.
Eventually Cordelia.
And you come to know them as the Scoobies, which is hilarious since Sarah Michelle Gellar plays Daphne later in her career.
Yes, I love that very much.
Anyway,
moving on.
So what do we like about Buffy?
Well, while we were talking about her watcher, I said literally, like, my thought process was, we will talk about, like, what we specifically like about Buffy Summers.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't talk about her and not mention Giles.
Sure.
Like, the fact that she has a patron or a mentor that has come before her, like in age and in wisdom. You're making me giggle, sorry. I just think that's really interesting. And is already a mechanic that pseudo exists in D&D. So, like, while we're building her, I think that would be fun to consider.
Sure.
While we're fiddling with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like Buffy a lot, and for a long time in my like high school world, I felt very connected to who Buffy was, like just like from.
It's convenient because you were in high school.
I was in high school. She's blonde. I'm blonde. Like
done.
I honestly started watching her in middle school because I remember getting like a pair of boots from like Kohl's, and I'd wear them to school, and I'd run around. I
remember you telling me that
at recess, and I could have sworn to you that I was faster because I was wearing Buffy boots.
I swear.
I could, like, and they were heeled, like, and I would just like,
these boots do it.
But I tried to like keep my traits about her somewhat general. So the first one that I wrote down was masculine energy. And y'all gave me the Buffy tarot cards.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Buffy tarot cards, Buffy is the Emperor.
Mm-hmm. Which is a masculine presenting card.
She is, when I say masculine energy, I mean like she's very assertive. She's seen as like the leader in her group.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I like in retrospect about that, she, when I think of a masculine presenting female, and I don't necessarily fully mean like gender binary.
Yeah, like visually.
I think of like Karlach from Baldur's Gate, where she's like fucking built. She's huge.
Got that dog in
Or like Yasha or something like that.
Absolutely. Or like Bo.
Right. And Buffy is a small, petite, blonde girl.
And has plenty of her own like traditionally femme and like frilly like girliness.
She likes fashion. She likes boys.
I shop. I walk.
Yeah, she is, and like this was part of the point of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, was the person you would normally consider to be the damsel in distress is the one who's kicking ass.
LOL goes to be Daphne.
yeah, right. But Daphne in this like rendition
comes back and has a like, Buffy
karate, era. Like all that sort of stuff.
Those are some of my favorite movies growing up.
So I liked the fact, in retrospect, I don't think I could have said this like in my first watch through, but she is a very assertive. She makes decisions. Like sometimes she gets questioned, and like rightfully so, but more often than not, if she says this is what we're doing, everybody listens.
Roger that. There are plenty of times, because any human is susceptible to like being emotionally driven. There are moments where she absolutely makes a decision that is emotionally encouraged, but like first of all, human, right? Second of all, like it happens to all of us. So that's I will also say, in this particular scenario, we have not gotten to the end. Like I said, we're in season 5. There are some stuff that could be brought up from season 6 and season 7 that I will not be bringing up because I don't want to spoil it for me.
For Soren. So, or for TJ in editing. So I if you're like, oh yeah, and remember that one, I remember that one. And we're not gonna talk about it. You can comment about it, and I will not look at the comments of this specific video. This comment section is for Caitie. Hi. You can talk to me in the comments below. Or send us an email and say, for Caitie's eyes only. Okay. Please put it in the subject line. That will crack me up. I'll be like, Caitie, it's here. So there, and I don't think even in those later seasons, nothing changes dramatically that like changes what I'm saying. There's just like even more examples of some of that in the later seasons. So my first one was her masculine, like assertive, everybody listens to her energy when she talks, like that sort of an energy. What's your first one? So outside of the Giles comment I made, I love the extreme athleticism and like strength. For anyone who hasn't watched Buffy or just isn't familiar, she's stupid strong. It's like Slayer strength. It's the power. It's supernatural in that she's not magic. Like she doesn't have magic. She can't shoot fire from her hands. She's just Hercules. It's just she is so strong, and she doesn't, like I said, the masculine like visual. Like she doesn't look built. She looks like a tiny petite blonde girl, who has anime strength. Like can lift not a car. If she like gave it a minute. She really tried. Can lift a man twice her size and chuck him. So in the first set of seasons, her like love interest is Angel the vampire, right?
Man twice her size.
And she could fuck him up, but like he also is vampire and has
He's
vampire
very
strength.
strong.
So like
and old.
they are good sparring partners in that sense.
Yeah.
But then in the 4th and 5th seasons, which is a little bit of a spoiler, in the 4th and 5th seasons,
TJ will make sure to put like chapters and like let you know about
I meant it's a
spoilers
spoiler
ahead
for
of time.
you, but
Oh. Go on.
in the 4th and 5th seasons, she has a boyfriend named Riley.
I already know that.
Okay, you knew there was an expiration date?
Oh, I assumed.
Okay, great. Yeah, who doesn't? There's a boyfriend in the 4th and 5th seasons who is much akin to a cardboard box. But he is pretty and he's tall and he's a military guy.
Mr. Cornfred, pretty boy.
And so he is also strong, but he's human strong. He's not supernaturally strong. She could kill him.
He has sheer strength from training and like starting from a very young age, all of the things that can make a normal human strong.
Traditional
Riley does
male strength,
right, is present in Riley. Buffy can yeet him.
They've sparred before, and she puts him on his actual ass.
And he says, "Wait, does he say it or does she say it? Like, I should have gone a little easier on you, or like, don't go easy on me, or like
he doesn't want, because he is." Got a little bit of toxic masculinity.
Just like, honestly,
just a little.
Just enough that you're like, come on, this is not necessary, but not enough that you like want to punch him.
He is threatened by her strength.
Yes.
And so he will say, don't go
I can
easy
handle
on me.
it.
And she's like, okay. And then she punches him across the room and he's like,
One of my favorite moments is actually, this is just going to become a Buffy podcast.
Okay, wait, don't tease me with a good time.
Go to our second channel. One of my favorite moments is actually a season where Angel has been gone from, this just gives you an idea of Buffy some more and we can like expand on this, but Angel has been gone for a while in the season and I can't remember the setup, but Riley meets Angel. Not a great situation, but like Angel alludes to this like, she'll destroy you. Like, I don't have to worry about her. Like, she'll kick your ass. And Riley's like, okay.
Shut up.
Oh, but like for Angel to recognize and be like, she's no joke. Yeah. And that's cool. And that's awesome. And I love her.
Yeah, well, yeah. Great. So yours was her athleticism.
Extreme athleticism. I just made a note about the masculine energy thing. I think you brought up a very good point in the fact that she is depicted as the Emperor card in the tarot deck. Yeah. That's a very good point to bring up.
I also like, she is very charismatic. She's got her quippy one-liners.
Naturally.
And she's like funny, people like her generally. So I think that's also interesting from a character like holistic perspective. She's got this masculine energy, but she still has her like feminine traits and she's like very charismatic. She's the main character. She's,
there's a very good duality that I feel is balanced in a character like Buffy. For all of her, like, because honestly, there's some of like I think this is genuinely a product of the time. Like, there are moments where it's like the toxic femininity that comes out and it's like, she makes up for it, honest to God. And they don't, like, some of those moments don't bother me because some of it also is like, you're 15. Yeah. Or like, you're a teenager. So she grows out of a lot of those things, but in whole, she is very balanced.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really cool.
I also... No, you go next. What's another one? I was about to just like plow through my list and I was like, no, take turns.
You go. Cause I like, my list is, I will have more, but I find that I'm bouncing off of you more. Okay. Because you're the expert. Remember how like I talked about Persephone ad nauseum, and now it's your turn.
Okay. All right.
She's like.
So the next one I wrote is the Chosen One archetype.
Oh, sure.
And what I like about this one has a few angles that Chosen One, I mean, that's not a new archetype in media. Something that I think is notable about Buffy's version of the Chosen One is that for most of the series, this is her job.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't ask to be it.
Right.
There are some days when she feels really motivated by it, but there are many, many more days where she is grieving her inability to have a normal life.
Yeah, her youth, essentially.
Mm-hmm. She can't have a regular boyfriend, which is...
without, like, dramatic repercussions.
She keeps, like, half her life a secret from them, or she endangers them.
Right.
She can't have a normal relationship. She struggles in school. It's talked of more than once in a lot of these, like, when I say criticism, I don't mean like pulling it apart. I mean like studying Buffy.
Yeah, it's just like a critique about you're pulling information, you're pulling observations.
Right.
And,
so in a lot of critiques about Buffy, people refer to her as kind of like Willow's the smart one. Buffy's not, the brains, you know, Willow and Giles are really smart. Buffy's not that smart. But I think it's interesting to note that it's not that she's not applying herself, she's not smart. It's that, like, imagine if you had this global duty to the world. And how much brain space would you have for chemistry? You know what I mean? Like, she just doesn't have, like, one person doesn't have all of that capacity.
That really forces and encourages her to, like, up the ante on street smarts.
Sure.
So she has tons of common sense, fighting knowledge, like street smarts, where it comes to, like, Willow and Giles, who are the book smart people, like, they struggle in the opposite way.
She's socially very intelligent, and she also has good intuition.
Yes.
But I find it's a recurring theme throughout the entire series. In the high school portion of the series, it's very much like, I just want to go to school, have boyfriends, go to school dances, shop, and I don't have time for that. And every time I try to make time for that, I'm told that's wrong.
Right.
And as she grows up into college, she struggles less with her Slayer identity in college. But it's a little bit like, my friends are moving on and I don't get to. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more vaguely, but after college, then it's like, how am I supposed to support myself when I have to do this other thing? And
like a very good comment to, like, insert there is, or point, I guess, is that most Slayers don't make it past 18, right?
A lot of Slayers die by 18, yeah.
Right. And so, like, if she's already past that point, this is, like, uncharted territory. She doesn't have any other Slayers to look back to because they dead. And, like, the Watchers Council, who is, like, the boys club that we talked about, they would be of no help and no service because she's already, like, distanced herself from them.
And there's an interesting portion, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, I'm just talking off the dome.
Wow.
There's an interesting portion of this show that folks have likened to the LGBTQ plus experience.
Yeah, 100%.
So eventually, at the start of the show, I think it's through season 2, even her mother is unaware that she is the Slayer and doing these things. And it gets to a point where, like, she can't, Joyce is catching on. Like something's not right.
You're coming home covered in blood often? What's up?
And I don't even remember, gosh, it's been even a hot minute since we've watched this episode.
Yeah.
Joyce wants her to stay home for something. I can't remember what. And Buffy has to go stop the big bad. I'm going to leave it nameless in case you're watching Buffy. So she has to go stop the big bad, and Joyce is trying to keep her from leaving. And Buffy eventually has, like, she sees no other option but to just be like, okay, Mom, here's what's happening. I'm the Slayer, and I have to go do this, like, worldly saving to, like, make sure that you still have a tomorrow. So sorry if this is inconvenient for you, but this is how it is. And Joyce has a really hard time understanding.
Yeah,
She's
well,
like, what
and
are you
first of
talking
all,
about?
Like, I think we even get some moments where it's like, oh, okay. Like, what?
Yeah, she's very much in denial. And Buffy says a line that's like, how many times have you washed blood out of my clothes? And you haven't said it, like, you're not putting it together? What do you think I'm talking about? And then Joyce says something to the effect of, can't you just choose not to do that? And Buffy's like, literally, no.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that, like, starts to line up with that LGBTQ plus experience.
Yep.
And that conversation ends with Buffy's like, I literally don't, I'm leaving.
I can't change this. It won't be happening.
Right.
So I'm going.
Right. And Joyce says, like, if you walk out of that house, out of this door, don't come back.
Don't come back.
And Buffy's like, bet. And then she walks out and does her whole thing. So there's also, like, some interesting parallels there to look at. But that chosen one, you have this
large burden.
And you are solely responsible for saving the world and making sure that everybody is safe. And in this particular example, nobody knows and nobody's going to say thank you for it. Yeah. You just have to quietly do it.
And be like...
And every day might be your last day. You could die tomorrow. Like, that sort of a vibe.
This isn't necessarily something that I'm like, I love this about Buffy. But something that gets preyed on a lot about Buffy is all of these other, like, big bads. And usually it's the more eloquent big bads that touch on this. But they touch on her loneliness. And they touch on the fact that she has this giant burden that she has to deal with alone. Nobody else could possibly understand what she's going through. And often it's these, like, villains that are in a, honestly, like, similar position when it comes to their own, like, plans. They're like, I completely understand. I get it. And so, like, there are moments where, like, she doesn't ever actually, like, give into it. But there's this little bit of, like, catharsis, I think, that she experiences from, like, someone gets it. I'm gonna kill you now.
Yeah.
Like...
We're starting to get into an episode where it's beginning to be addressed, but, like, in the Buffy versus Dracula episode that we've recently watched, he talks at her about the fact that her power is rooted in darkness. Yeah. And of course that will become more prominent as we go, but it's just like, the more eloquent villains are like, you and me are very similar. And
you could go the other direction if you're not careful.
So in more spoilers, in season 1, Buffy dies, right? She gets bit by the master and falls face first into water. So she didn't die by vampire bite. She died by drowning. But she gets resuscitated and comes back. Well, she died. So another Slayer was called. And it's not like, it wasn't like, ring, ring, hello.
Hey, can you do it now?
It's like when one Slayer dies, and then whoever is destined to be the next Slayer suddenly is like, I'm strong now. Like, that's kind of what it means to have a Slayer be called. So another Slayer gets called. Her name is Kendra. Kendra is very in juxtaposition of Buffy. She follows rules.
She's by the book.
She obeys authority. And in her particular culture, like, men are leaders. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. She comes in and she's, like, very
respectful of Giles.
To Xander. She's, like, shy to Xander. She's respectful of Giles. Like, she's read all of the books. She knows all the definitions. She's, like, gone to Slayer school.
And Buffy, in contrast, is very, like, I don't need to read all that stuff. We'll talk about it before I go punch the thing.
And then Kendra dies.
Yeah. So then we get
So
another
then we get
Slayer.
another Slayer.
Because there are 2 timelines now.
And so Faith gets called. And Faith, in juxtaposition to Buffy, is what you were saying. You and me are very alike, and it's really easy for you to go this way. And Faith does. So she's got this whole, like, nobody understands me. I'm stronger and better than everyone.
So I deserve the world and I deserve the recognition. Why shouldn't I just take what I want?
I have killed so many demons and set the record straight so often with no thanks that
I deserve a little.
I deserve to do this.
Yeah.
And I am better than everyone.
Yes.
She talks.
She legitimately says that. Says that.
She also says, there's a line she says that is
Faith
like,
does. Sorry.
That is like, we've racked enough points in this column that we get to have some points in the other column. And Buffy is very like, no, that's not how this works. But if you look at all 3 of those Slayers, Buffy's kind of that middle point. Kendra's over here on the by the book, respectful. It's her duty. She doesn't have friends. She doesn't.
That's not how it works.
Right. Like, she is very much like dutiful
She's devout
Slayer.
and pious.
Then you've got Buffy, who's kind of a little bit less than that. She's got friends, but she does her duty. And then you've got Faith, who is like hedonistic.
Yeah.
She does what she wants to do. Slaying makes her horny, like that kind of a thing. And it's just interesting to put all those 3. They're all chosen ones. And they all approach their duty differently in a different way.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the writers intended this, but it's very cool to compare all 3 of them and then to see how Buffy really is the balance for the world. It's just neat.
Those are the 3 things that masculine energy, she's charismatic and she's got that chosen one vibe. We've talked about her athleticism. We've talked about
Giles.
So
we
she
can
has
mention the
like a mentor.
Scoobies later, but honestly, I feel like the Scoobies would be the rest of your party. So you really can't completely control that. But yes, for sure, like Giles. Extreme athleticism, the masculine energy. Stupid high charisma. Still, I'm gonna throw like the word balanced into her. I think that's gonna be very important when we go to make her a character. I have a feeling, not necessarily that she would be a character that's just like even keeled all the time, but something I'm excited to like dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so let's roll with it.
Yeah.
And then we'll start conducting trait transmutation.
Character
alchemy via trait transmutation. Okay. We're doing an icebreaker for roll with it today.
Okie dokie. Snowflakes.
I don't know why D&D Beyond is
They're
so
like,
wintry.
it's winter. Do you want to know that?
Okay. Rolling a D20. Let's see.
Roll it, baby.
That's a 7.
7.
Let's see if that's something we can actually do.
What does 7 get us?
Have you ever met a celebrity?
Yes.
Me too, actually. I was about to be like, no. I don't know. I was like, no, yeah, I have. Yeah, I have.
Who'd you meet?
All of Pentatonics.
Yeah, you did.
One of my best friends from a few years ago, her college graduation, I bought us, Pentatonics was coming to Grand Island for the Nebraska State Fair, which I was like, what?
What are you doing here?
But I bought us VIP tickets to the Pentatonics concert at the Nebraska State Fair. So we got to do a meet and greet with Pentatonics. They did a private concert for all of the people who bought VIP tickets.
Jeez.
And we got to be there for their sound check.
That's really cool.
And then that meant we were in the front row for their entire concert.
Yeah.
And that was the second concert that Kaylee and I went to. The first one was in Dallas. We went down and stayed with my stepmom at the time because she was living in Sherman, but dad wasn't there yet. So we went and stayed with Barbara, and then drove down and visited my grandma in Dallas, and that day went to the concert. But we had gotten floor tickets for that, so we were also really close. But then we were like, so I have a selfie with every member of Pentatonics.
That's awesome. Now that I think about it, I've met a few, but not like, I don't know, like not long exchanges. Mm-hmm. Like some of them are honestly meet and greets from shows that I've been to.
Sure.
I think a few of my favorite have been, I went to the original American showing of Six the musical. When it was testing in Chicago. So I went to the Shakespeare Theater and we got to watch Six, and then we got to meet all of them afterwards, and we were like second row. It was so much fun. And
is that when like Sam Polly was was that same cast?
Yes.
She was Catherine Howard, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, I have a selfie with each one of them. Neat. Yeah, it was very cool. So I loved that. When I was 13, maybe I was 12, I met Demi Lovato.
Stop. What?
They were very nice. It was a meet and greet with Verizon. Would you believe it? Because my first like stadium concert ever was a Jonas Brothers concert.
Oh, got it.
And so my best friend and I, hi Heather, we went to Verizon for a meet and greet and waited for 3 hours before that concert that day, and they were super nice.
Yeah,
that's all I remember. And then I met Walk the Moon, the band.
Nice.
Yeah, I went to a concert. They were like in Nebraska. I went to a concert with a friend. I actually accidentally met them because they finished the show. I was nowhere near the stage, but great show. And then we're leaving and we saw that the whole band was like down by the stage, and like this place was cleared. Like nobody was there. Oh. And so we like walked down and just, honestly, we walked up to say, hi, I'm so sorry for bothering you. We just want to say thank you for the show and like have a great night. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And like we got pictures with the whole band.
That's great.
And they were super nice. And they signed like our limited poster.
Nice.
And, yeah. So it's very fun like to meet those people so briefly.
I'm trying to think if I met anyone else. I don't think I've really ever met anyone else. My other like large claim to fame, so to speak, are just like dance choreographers.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because like for a long time, especially with the height of So You Think You Can Dance, a lot of those choreographers were on the convention circuits.
Yeah.
So they would come and, you know, you'd go to NYCDA or something like that, and you'd take class from Mia Michaels and whatever, and so like that felt akin to meeting a celebrity.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that I've ever actually, like, I've not met any, like, movie
A-list
stars.
celebrities.
Yeah.
I've seen Tom Hanks get into his Escalade in New York.
Wow.
I had just watched him in a play called Lucky Guy, and we were in New York, and we tried to stage door it, but it was false. I've met Christian Borle.
Something you easily forget.
This is turning into way too long of a roll with it, but I will sum it up. Tom Hanks, saw him in a play. Fantastic job, dude. Thanks for being there. Watched him get into his car, and he like took off to wherever he stays in New York when he lives there. And then Christian Borle, it was while Peter and the Starcatcher was still off Broadway. And he was playing Black Stash, who is like the Captain Hook character. Yeah. And there's several like people who I consider celebrities now, but like we stage doored that. I have his autograph on my playbill of Peter and the Starcatcher. Got to tell him like thank you, and it was an excellent show. It was so much fun, and that was wild. I
did go to the So You Think You Can Dance tour.
Did you?
Once.
That's so
with,
cool.
With like the Emeralds, my high school dance team, we like. It's similar to stage dooring it, but at the like Omaha Quiz Center or whatever, and got to take pictures with the folks who are on the tour there.
That's awesome.
I mean, none of those people are like big name.
No, but they're like stars. Matter to you in the industry, so like it's a type of celebrity.
Yeah. Someday because Michael lives
She's manifesting it right now.
Because Michael lives in LA. A couple things is going to happen. I'm going to be in LA long enough to go to the places where the Famos hang out. And I'm just going to sit there and watch. I don't want to meet you. I'm not here to, like, get your autograph. I just want to say I've seen a Famo. But then, too, and more importantly, I will be meeting Matt Mercer. Mark my words.
This is manifesting at its finest.
She
will meet Marisha Ray so she can go up to her and go, pop, pop.
And all of them are good and great.
Yeah, 100%.
All of them are good and great.
I want to meet Robbie Damon so bad, sir. I'm manifesting this now. Sam Riegel, Robbie Damon. I would love to just say hello to you.
I just want to have like a conversation.
Yeah, I want to be nerdy, dude.
And you know, when you dream about those interactions, I'm always like, we're gonna be instant BFFs, and it's like that's not how any of that works. And
it's
like
not how friends are made.
I know, okay, but I've already formed a parasocial relationship with them in my head.
I'll pull you back. Don't worry. I'll chill you out so you don't look like a weirdo.
But it's just like, man, y'all are great. And thanks to you, we have a D&D podcast.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, yes, they were probably one of the biggest influences for us to start the podcast.
You make me happy. You make me cry. You make me laugh. And I've had physical dreams of us hanging out. So
just casual.
That feels like reality sometimes.
Oh my God.
I have had multiple dreams where like the cast of Critical Role and like us just like hanging out on like a Friday
and they
night.
invited us to be a guest on
Liam
the stream.
O'Brien and I are just having like an existential conversation like one does late Friday nights over like a drink or something. Being like, yeah, man.
I would literally either be sitting next to like Laura or Travis, and I would struggle so hard, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't look at her and I wouldn't go
fangirling a little bit. I bet Travis Willingham gives the best fucking hugs.
I feel like that's inaccurate.
His hugs fucking rock.
I feel like that's accurate.
Anyway, let's exit this before I make a bigger fool out of myself.
This is so much fun.
Anywho,
we're gonna transition back.
Alchemy like these traits into
we're gonna make a
D&D
character
mechanics.
that is not Buffy. This is gonna be harder for Caitie than for me. It's not. I know. It's not Buffy. It's a character like Buffy that takes all of those really cool traits that we just talked about and enjoy.
Somebody who has the leadership masculine energy that's assertive but still charismatic, so they're likable. Perhaps they've got that chosen one arc in them. They're athletic. They're well balanced. Perhaps they have a mentor of sorts in their lives that guide and train them to be who they are.
I feel like the easiest thing to make sense of is like I think I would lean into making this a female character. I think that makes sense. That's literally what we've been talking about, is the duality of that within someone. So I think that follows. Really
As
easily.
per usual, I think I know what class this person should be.
Oh yeah, okay.
Fighter.
I figured you might go there.
Fighter, and I was looking at the martial archetypes. She is not magic. Yeah. So I don't think it makes any sense for her to be a spellcaster.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
Means. So I looked at champion. The archetypal champion who focuses on the development of raw physical power honed to deadly perfection. Those who model themselves on this archetype combine rigorous training with physical excellence to deal devastating blows.
Nice. I think that's great.
So they get improved critical. So beginning when you choose this archetype at 3rd level, your weapon attacks score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20. Starting at 7th level, you can add half your proficiency bonus to any strength, dexterity, or constitution check. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you can cover increases by the number of feet equal to your strength modifier. At 10th level, you can choose a second option from the fighting style class feature. You can do archery, like ranged weapons, which makes
Which
sense.
she does.
She uses crossbows a lot. You have blind sight with a range of 10 feet. Within that range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blinded or in darkness. Moreover, you can see an invisible creature within that range unless the creature successfully hides from you. While you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 to AC. You've got great weapon fighting. You've got dueling. When a creature you see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you, within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. A creature you see can see attacks a target other than you within 5 feet. You can use your reaction to impose disadvantage.
Oh, you have like the extended one. I'm like, where are you finding some of these extra things?
Yeah. At 15th level, you can get a critical hit on a roll of 18
or 20. Okay.
At 18th level, you would gain the pinnacle of resilience in battle. At the start of each of your turns, you regain a hit point equal to 5 plus your constitution modifier. This feels very
I think something that we're gonna have to start like a mini series is gonna be like Soren breaks it down corner, because sometimes when we read these things, I get a little lost in the sauce and confused about how those English words go together and make a sentence, and then it gets all jumbled in my head. So at 18th level, you get Pinnacle of Resilience, and at the start of each of your turns, you get 5 plus hit points. Wait, what? You regain hit points equal to, I understand. You take your con modifier and you add 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take your constitution modifier and you add 5 extra points
if you
at the start of each of your turn.
If you have no more than half of your hit points left. If you have no more than half. You don't gain this benefit if you have 0 hit points.
If you have 0. Okay. So you have to have, if you have 50, you have to have 25 plus to be able to regain these hit points. So it's supposed to be a sustain function. Right. Helps you to not die.
Right. So basically this subclass, they're like what it said at the beginning, raw physical power honed to deadly perfection.
I like that, how that's written.
They're a very athletic archetype. You can see things that other people don't see. You've got proficiency with weapons. You can intercept and protect other people.
I like the sight also, because like her sight would be ridiculous.
Kind of that Slayer sense that she talks about sometimes.
Yeah. She's like, I can feel it. I know that it exists. I need to go find it.
Right. And you know, like as you go through this archetype, you get better at fighting. So like your critical hit becomes 18 through 20 or 19 through 20. Like it's easier for you to succeed in battle.
Because you are so good at it. And I think this subclass is what might make me very interested in playing a fighter.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I think that the champion fighter makes a lot of sense to me. Well, let me see what the quick build of a fighter looks like.
Oh, sure.
So make a fighter quickly by making strength or dexterity your highest ability score, depending on whether you want to focus on melee weapons or on archery. Your next highest score should be constitution or intelligence if you plan to adopt the Eldritch Knight martial archetype, and then choose the soldier background. So I think her highest ability score would be strength. I mean, dexterity also makes sense to be relatively high. I like, constitution or intelligence. I would say constitution is probably higher for this sort of a character. She can withstand more rather than being what intelligence all puts into. So arcana, history, investigation, nature, religion, like we were talking about, that kind of falls in that Giles Willow category.
Yeah.
So I think she can withstand more damage rather than be really intelligent in all of those things. She would be relying on other people for that.
That would make her more of a tank.
Right.
Which I think is very fitting, and I think would be very helpful in a party setting, is kind of like that Karlak idea. Like, just throw her in there and she'll...
So, and from a character building perspective, like we talked about, we like the fact that she's unassuming. So, like, I would probably build this sort of a character, and I know we're not making Buffy per se, but that's a trait we like about her. So let's pretend she's not blonde and small. Maybe she's tall and skinny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like take some contradictory to that masculine energy traits.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that even encourages that we can pick like a different race than just human.
Sure.
I think I don't know what specifically. That's just where that. No. That just popped out of my head. But yeah, I like that idea. So like, I like your idea of them being tall and lanky. I think that would be very fun. I think you could even make someone who's like Yoda sized.
Sure, yeah, you could do like a gnome or something like that, halfling. Yeah. I would make, so strength is their number one. Dexterity and constitution are probably high up there. I would make charisma be next, and your wisdom and intelligence would be your lowest ones. Now, wisdom includes like perception, wisdom includes survival, wisdom includes medicine, insight, animal handling. So I think Buffy, or a character like Buffy, is probably still relatively perceptive. I think she also has some pretty legitimate survival instincts. And charisma includes things like deception, intimidation, performance, and persuasion. I think she's probably more those things than she is perception. I would make sure probably that my wisdom modifier wasn't negative. So I want to plus something to wisdom. Yeah. If like I were to roll my ability scores and I have a negative trait, my negative trait would be intelligence. But I still think if I had to choose, my charisma score would be higher than my wisdom score. Because she intimidates and all of those things. Yeah. But I mean, that is totally up to you as far as your own fighter. If you want to make somebody who has better perception than deception, those I think could be easily flip-flopped.
I think that's fair because like the show builds her up to, I don't know, I feel like to have better perception rather than deception of people. I think she's very like forward and honest and like hide stuff when she needs to, but like the whole thing about Buffy is not that she's like, I'm tricksy, I'm gonna...
Yeah, I think though, I mean, charisma also includes intimidation.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So when you're talking about these as very like umbrella traits, I think wisdom and charisma can be flip-flopped. So if you want somebody who is better at intimidation, you're going to want to make charisma higher. If you want somebody who is more better at perception, survival, animal handling, insight, then you make wisdom be higher.
I think that's fair.
And then you can always like, as you're building this person, especially with like racial proficiencies and background proficiencies, things like that, you can kind of decide maybe she has got a higher score in wisdom, but you make her proficient in intimidation. Yeah. Or something like that. So it kind of boosts that specific skill rather than making that whole ability score higher.
So what I was just like, I literally just came to the race page and I was just like looking through a bunch of them. I think a few that could be really fun and could like lend themselves to this fighter is someone like an orc or a half orc even. I think a halfling would be very fun because you could...
The contradiction.
Yes. I think a human is perfectly fine. Sure. I think there's a lot of unassuming energy about that anyway, because it's like, oh, you Not are a completely non-fantasy like person, you're the tank. Okay. I think that would be very fun. I literally was like, oh, tiefling would be so fun, and then I was like, that doesn't make any sense for someone like Buffy because of their like infernal like lineage and whatnot.
Yeah,
But we're not talking about like you're the chosen one to save the world from demons. Like it could be chosen one to save the world from
else.
Yeah, something else.
in these, I feel like the race in these character alchemy sessions, I feel like the race ends up being a little bit more secondary to like class functions and background functions.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of make any race
work
fit any storyline. Now, if like in your specific campaign world setting, if the chosen one doesn't make sense to have infernal background, then that's fine.
Then that can I guess help you, give you some guardrails.
Right.
Kind of suss out what's gonna make the most sense.
Right.
And then kind of mess with it from there. But I think I agree. I think class I think race is secondary. Because we are really just like building this part up for y'all, and then like you can run with it however you like.
Right. Now, the Player's Handbook recommends soldier as the
I saw that
background. So I'm just going to talk about soldier really quick, but I have a secondary option that I think could also work.
Okay.
So, soldier, war has been your life for as long as you care to remember. You trained as a youth, studied the use of weapons and armor. When you choose this background, you work with your DM to determine which military organization you were a part of, how far through its ranks you progressed. Your skill proficiencies are athletics and intimidation, which kind of covers what we were talking about. You get one type of gaming set. You are proficient in vehicles. Your equipment is insignia of rank, a trophy taken from a fallen enemy, a set of bone dice or a deck of cards.
That's kind of funny.
A set of common clothes and a pouch containing 10 gold pieces. And then you can choose a specialty. So that's like officer, scout, infantry, cavalry, healer, quartermaster, standard bearer, or support staff. You get a military rank. And then, of course, there are the suggested characteristics. But may I present folk hero?
Oh, like legendary.
Yeah. Now, this one, you come from a humble social rank, but you are destined for so much more. Already the people of your home village regard you as their champion. And your destiny calls you to stand against the tyrants and the monsters that threaten the common folk everywhere.
Yeah, that feels right.
The skill proficiencies for this are animal handling and survival. So for that one, here's how I fixed that.
I fixed it.
Charisma is your higher ability score then.
Okay.
Because you're getting the animal handling and survival that comes with the wisdom ability score. So you just adjust your ability
this is
scores.
taken care of. I'm going to dump into charisma.
Right. And then if you get any other options for proficiencies, I would also put in like perception, like those other like insight, things like that. I would try to put some proficiency in there. You get one type of artisan's tools and also proficient in vehicles. You get a shovel, an iron pot, a set of common clothes, and a pouch containing 10 gold pieces. And then you get to get a defining event. You previously pursued a simple profession among the peasantry, perhaps a farmer, miner, servant, shepherd, woodcutter, gravedigger, high school cheerleader. But something happened that set you on a different
cheerleader.
path. Yeah. Yay!
Yay!
Choose randomly or determine a defining event that marked you as a hero of the people. So defining events on this particular chart include stand up to tyrants' agents, saving people during a natural disaster, stood alone against a terrible monster, stole from a corrupt merchant to help the poor, led a militia to fight off an invading army, broke into a tyrant's castle and stole weapons, trained the peasantry to use farm implements as weapons. A lord rescinded an unpopular decree after I led a symbolic act of protest. A celestial, fae, or similar creature gave me a blessing or revealed my secret origin. Recruited into a lord's army. I rose to leadership and was commended for my heroism. Or some dude walked in and said, "Hi, I'm your watcher, guide, mentor," and revealed my lineage.
I love that one.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say that one, or I stood alone against like a giant entity, which is very fair and would like kind of reference the movie version to kickstart everything. But I love the idea of someone just like approaching and being like, hi, you're built different.
And this is just like another example of how when you're building a character, I mean, you need to work with your DM on all of these things, but if you wanted to be a folk hero and these defining events don't make sense for your particular story or where you want your character to go, make up your own. You do get the rustic hospitality feature, which is you fit in among common people with ease. You can find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among other commoners unless you have shown yourself to be a danger to them.
I think that is very useful, and I think would absolutely be something that Buffy could do.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, even just watching the series that we have, like, there are plenty of times where she's had to like lay low, hide, or hide like friends, family, whatnot, to keep them safe. And like there are always going to be times where you just roll bad, and it doesn't happen. But there are plenty of times in the show where it works out, and she was able to do it effortlessly or easily. Right. That's great.
So like the personality traits that they include with these, just to name a few, is I judge people by their actions, not their words. When I set my mind to something, I follow through no matter what gets in my way. I'm confident in my own abilities. That all makes sense for a character like Buffy. Your ideals could be respect, fairness, freedom, might, sincerity, or destiny. So that kind of feels like if you were to take the 3 Slayers, Kendra's is destiny. Nothing and no one can steer me away from my higher calling.
Sure, yeah.
Faith's might be freedom. Tyrants are not allowed to oppress the people.
Yeah.
She's very chaotic. It could be might. If I become strong, I can take what I want.
Yeah, if we're talking about like if you want to base a character on any of the Slayers.
Right.
Yeah, I like
that.
But
I mean, I think this shows how this kind of fits that vibe.
Absolutely.
I think Buffy's would probably be more like fairness or sincerity. Fairness, no one should get preferential treatment before the law and no one is above the law. Yeah. But sincerity is there's no good in pretending to be something I'm not. Yeah. Bonds, I have a family, but I don't know where they are. I worked the land. I love the land. A proud noble once gave me a horrible beating, and I will take my revenge. Tools are symbols of my past life. I carry them. I protect those who cannot protect themselves.
I think that one makes the most sense.
I wish my childhood sweetheart had come with me to pursue my destiny. It could also make sense. Yeah. Flaws. The tyrant who rules my land will stop at nothing to see me killed. I am convinced of the significance of my destiny and blind to my shortcomings and the risk of failure. That could work.
I think that one can fit. Yeah, for sure.
The people who knew me when I was young know my shameful secret and I can never go home again. I have a weakness for the vices of the city, especially a hard drink. That's Faith. Hello. Secretly, I believe things would be better if I were a tyrant lording over the land. And then I have trouble.
That could also be Faith.
Yeah. I have trouble trusting in my allies. That kind of fits with Buffy.
I think that can actually fit all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Because and that kind of calls back to like the loneliness of the burden. It's like, just me. Sorry.
And you could kind of play that, like Buffy often plays that as like, if you come with me, I have to protect you.
Yes.
Versus if I go by myself, I can take care of myself.
Like
I don't have to worry about
where she's like, Xander,
else.
You're not coming.
Right.
Because we don't have enough hands to protect everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think all of those could make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So then further from that, we've covered her athleticism as her strength being her highest ability score. Her charisma, her riz. You can accomplish in a couple different ways. One being, maybe you take the soldier background that gives you proficiencies in those things, or maybe you make charisma the higher ability score and then give yourself proficiency in things like insight, perception, whatever.
Yes.
The Chosen One arc that comes from your own backstory. Something I wanted to note is there is a TTRPG called Monster of the Week.
Yes, yeah.
And Monster of the Week is kind of centered around like a Buffy-esque show. Like there are monsters. You fight a different, big bad each arc, whatever. And there's a playbook for a chosen, which is what Buffy is. You are the chosen one. You have the potential to stop the end of the world, but you aren't ready for it yet. And in the chosen playbook, you get this TTRPG is a different mechanic than D&D, so some of this isn't going to translate exactly.
And some of it could be more inspirational.
Right.
I feel like unless your DM is like, yeah, we can roll with that.
Right. Destiny's Plaything, at the beginning of each mystery, roll plus weird to see what is revealed about your immediate future. So that's kind of like Buffy's prophetic dreams. Buffy gets like prophetic dreams.
Yeah, no, so I think that's very,
that could be interesting. You could work from a D&D perspective. You could work with your DM about having prophetic dreams or something like that. The powers that be give you specific ideas about what's coming next. I'm here for a reason. There's something you are destined to do. Work out the details with the keeper, the dungeon master, based on your fate. You cannot die until it comes to pass. If you die in play, you must spend a luck point. You will then somehow recover or be returned to life. You can pick one of these things. The big entrance, when you make a showy entrance into a dangerous situation, roll plus cool. On every 10 plus, everyone stops to watch and listen until you finish your opening speech. On a 7 through 9,
all of you.
You pick one person or monster to stop, watch, and listen until you finish talking.
Stop, drop.
On a miss, you are marked as the biggest threat by all the enemies who are present. But like, I'm thinking about Buffy's one-liner quips. Like, okay, are we done talking? Because it's time to get to business.
Like, okay, your voice is so obnoxious and I have a headache now. Are you ready to fight or what?
I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer and you are? Like those kinds of like opening.
Yeah, her like little like, do you know who I am?
So you get to pick one of these. You could have that as a skill. Devastating. When you inflict harm, you may inflict +1 harm. So you do more damage than average. Dutiful. When your fate rears its ugly head and you act in accordance with any of your fate tags, okay, then mark experience. So you get like more, you level up quicker by acting to your duty.
Got it.
Invincible. You always count as having 2 armor. This doesn't stack with other protection, so you're harder to hit.
Okay.
Resilience. You heal faster than normal people.
That would make sense.
Anytime your harm gets healed, heal an extra point. Additionally, your wounds count as 1 less harm. Anyway, so like those kinds of things you could work with your DM. Maybe if there's a specific duty you're working towards, ridding the world of vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness. Anytime you act in accordance to that, maybe you are closer to leveling up, whatever that means for your game. You have special weapons, so like that would be Mr. Pointy for Buffy. She's got her special stake that she uses. There's a lot of different things, but like your fate, how you found out. Maybe you had nightmares and visions. Or some weirdo told you. I read that verbatim off this. Some
weirdo said it.
An ancient cult found you. You were sought out by your nemesis. You were attacked from monsters, or you were trained from birth. If you are heroic, you might be a sacrifice. You're the champion. Yeah, it's just those like these kind of inspirational, flavory things that you could add into this. And then like, I don't know, some of these I'm not well versed in Monster of the Week, so I'm like learning some of these things as I'm going.
She's like, oh.
But it's just like interesting to like think about. The Chosen is very ready for action, so they're effective with stunts and fighting. They're only sort of mysterious, so they're not that great at research, or each of these traits are out of 3, okay? Action, a Chosen has 3 action, but they have 1 mystery. So they're less effective at research.
Okay, and those points are like a scale.
Yes.
Is that right?
1 out of 3.
Right.
Or 3 out of 3. Odd is 2 out of 3. So they get weird powers and strange stuff going on with them. that makes sense. Prophetic dream, super strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
3 out of 3 for story. How much the inclusion of this playbook will influence the whole game. So you're the chosen one. If you're in the story, like
not the chosen two.
So if you are the chosen one in your story, that has to be pretty influential in the larger story.
So that would be an even more important thing to like work out with your DM.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if I go with this kind of like archetype and like format, I have to be very important.
And just like,
and
what does
okay.
that mean?
How
in
does
the
that
long
relate
run?
to? Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then 1 out of 3 for team. How much you help the team as a whole succeed. So like Buffy's the main character, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other characters have goals and things they want. Buffy's not necessarily helping them on their trajectories. She's on her own trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I'm thinking about a collaborative story, obviously being a chosen one in a collaborative story can be perhaps a little difficult to collaborate. You know, I'm thinking if we were in the Elrond campaign, if one of us was the chosen one, how does that affect everybody else's storyline?
Yeah.
And I think what ends up happening is whatever the chosen one's fate, destiny, duty is, kind of has to be the main plot of the story. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't mean that other players can't have other motivations.
Yeah,
but maybe
there can't be like moments where the other characters have like we always have like even in the TV series, like we have episodes that are not focused on Buffy. Like we have those moments. Everybody does have a plot that they are also experiencing, but the larger story we're telling is focused on this one character's like outcome, essentially.
So like I'm thinking of the Sunnydale Hellmouth. That might be the main plot of the story.
Sure.
And Buffy is the chosen one to maintain the balance on the Hellmouth. So she's going to be called to fight certain evils.
And let's say this is potentially a cave.
Right.
Or like maybe it's a castle that is like filled with like evil forces that like maybe there's like a monster machine inside the castle and it's like pumping out monsters of the week left, right, and center. And like she has to essentially like go into the castle, take it down from the inside, like don't know if we can actually get rid of it, like that kind of setup.
And in the actual Buffy the Vampire Slayer show, the Hellmouth is under the high school. Right. And so just and the Hellmouth is a mouth to hell.
What?
Literally. Now that doesn't mean she's constantly going to the basement and fighting things that are coming out of the mouth of hell.
No, they're very strategic in how they either go to it or like affect the areas around it or whatnot.
So, you know, maybe that's just like why this character is called to this city, meets up with these people, you know, like that sort of thing. But Willow has her own arc of becoming a witch. And Buffy's tied into that. She finds her way about being a witch through Buffy's, you know, duty of dealing with the Hellmouth.
Yeah.
You know, Giles has his own like midlife crisis about what am I doing and all of this kind of stuff, but he finds that intertwined with Buffy's story.
Yeah.
So like if you're doing a chosen one arc, your storyline ends up being integral to
everyone else's story.
Right.
And I think my immediate like people pleaserness is like, I'm not trying to get attention, I swear. And that's the thing you need to like not worry about so much, is that everyone is coming into play and make this story together. And there are going to be times where like you are the focus in the story. But I think that that's a really good testament to like the different kinds of D&D players we have. Sure. So we have people who like, I mean, like, myself for sure, I love like role-playing scenes, so like I can absolutely see myself like jumping into something like this. But we have players at like a couple tables that I've been to where it's like someone is like, that is the last thing that I ever want to be responsible for in a D&D campaign.
So I think you could take parts of the Buffy character and make her have the like leadership, masculine, assertive energy and is really charismatic, is a fighter, is super athletic, but maybe they're not the chosen one, right?
Yeah. I think you like it. Maybe it's like a special story where you pull in that chosen one aspect.
Right. And I think you could be the chosen one. You talk to your DM and be like, I want to have come into this power by a lineage that some weirdo came up and told me about. And I suddenly woke up and was very strong. And maybe you make that chosen one, you twist it so that it's not the main storyline, but there's these, you know, flavors of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's very like moldable to what you want it to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Do we think we've missed anything about Buffy's
I don't
mechanics?
think so. I think this is...
We did it. Did we do it?
This is thick.
Yeah. So that's Buffy. As her traits translate into D&D mechanics. Yeah. And I think that would be a really fun character to play.
I do too.
If you're interested in the Monster of the Week stuff, it's by Evil Hat Productions, and the Adventure Zone did a season of it a while back called Amnesty. And it takes place in like West Virginia. And it's very, very good. I liked Amnesty a lot. So I would encourage you to listen to it if you want to know how that system kind of fleshes out. I do believe they use the Chosen One playbook. But I think, and I do not remember how Monster of the Week worked, but I believe that the Chosen One was also mundane. So like, he started out mundane, didn't have anything about him, and then one day kind of woke up and was getting these like it was very interesting. So listen to that.
Well, it is time, and that is it for us this week.
That's it.
Thanks for spending time with us today, and thanks to Noah Trumbull for the use of our theme song. Please be sure to check out his music. There's a link to his Instagram in the episode description, and be sure to stay up to date on all the things that his band Pearl Parade are doing.
They just won like Battle of the Bands here in Lincoln, so that's really exciting.
Congrats.
If you're enjoying our show, there are some things that we really would appreciate it if you do. If you'd leave us a review, like and subscribe, smash that subscribe button, click that bell so that you're notified. But also on Spotify, you can follow us there. That just helps other people find us. Anyway, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. That's what I was about to say.
Yep, you got it.
So you can find our new episodes faster. And then lastly, you should follow us on our socials. That is Facebook and Instagram and nowhere else. So do find us on those things. If you are like, man, I wish I have a really good title idea for this that's not character alchemy, and I wish I would have like known that they were asking for those. If you were on Instagram, we had a story where you could submit title suggestions.
Yeah, so come hang out with us there.
Come hang out with us there so you don't miss stuff like that. You smart, creative person, you. That's it.
The last little bit is that we also want to hear from you. So if something came up today in the episode that made you think, or you're like, that's not how I would make Buffy. That's dumb. Like,
idiot.
Don't call us idiots. That's mean. Be nice on the internet.
Or
in
else.
A world that is so tough, be nice. Or else. But yeah, if something came up today, please like reach out to us on those social platforms or go ahead and shoot us an email at chromaroses@gmail.com. That's CHROMAROSES@gmail.
And to just prove our point from the last few episodes, my dad, did email us. And I'm not kidding you. I saw that notification come across my phone and I immediately Snapchatted Soren and was like, we have an email.
She was so excited.
So that's my own dad that I talk to once
regularly.
a week.
And she was like, ah!
It's happening. So seriously.
Please reach out.
Not
Say
kidding. We haven't responded to Michael, but we will. So just hang on. Anyway, this has been Chromatic Roses. I'm Caitie.
And I'm Soren. Mommy those hobbies.
We're just choosing what we want to say at this point.
We're picking the fave.
Okay, love you. Bye.